Welcome to the special edition of Spotlight from the majestic India House. Built in 1918 and bought by the Government of India in 1948, this elegant building has been the resident of Indian High Commissioners to Singapore since 1966, including its current resident, His Excellency Jawed Ashraf. If there was a Hall of Fame of Indian High Commissioners, Jawed ji, as he is very dearly called in Singapore, will make a cut by a mega margin. We had interviewed Jawed ji when he took charge in Singapore. And now that he completes his tenure here, we turn the spotlight back on him to ask him about his stint and his taking over as India's ambassador in France. Sir, you've been absolutely relentless in building the relationship between India and Singapore over the last 3 years of your tenure. How would you, in your words, describe your 3 years?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on with Connected to India. You've been a great partner for us in Singapore and a great medium through which we've communicated with the diaspora as well as articulated some of our vision here. These 3 years have been obviously extraordinary. Very enjoyable, productive, and deeply satisfying. This was my first tenure as head of mission, but it couldn't have been in a better place. In 3 respects, I'd describe this. One, of course, is that we are talking about a relationship that is excellent. So the conditions have been very conducive for me. Both Singapore and India are high priorities for each other. It is our major economic partner and certainly one of the most important defense partners. We do a lot of things together in international forums as well. And similarly for Singapore, as you know, they regard India as a key partner, one of the most important when they think of regional stability and regional prosperity and peace. So we have a very conducive atmosphere for this. Excellent political ties, great defense and security partnership. As I said already, a very strong economic links, high degree of connectivity between the two countries. As you know, 15, 16 cities have direct connections. We're doing a lot of stuff together now in technology, and people-to-people and cultural ties are, of course, great. But there's a very unique feature of Singapore, which makes it even more interesting, is that it is home to, I think, one of the best, most accomplished and talented diaspora, Indian diaspora in the world. This is one of the places in the world where India or Indianness does not seem supplanted, or it seems to be organically part of Singapore. And that makes a big difference. I feel that it's been a very important factor for me in the past 3 years and for us as the High Commission, is how we've been able to develop a network of let's say, resources, talent, professional organizations, both within the diaspora and outside, and to work with them as a team, not as High Commission working with a set of people outside, but together.
To us, there's been many highlights of these last 3 years that you have been here, the way you have engaged with the diaspora, the way you have built Brand India. But according to you, what has been the highlight of your tenure?
Oh, well, it's very hard to sort of, look back on 3 years and pick up any one or two. But again, let me say that there are 3 broad compartments in which I'd like to see this. One is, of course, bilateral, what India and Singapore are doing together. There, clearly, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's visit to Singapore on 31 May to 2nd June in 2018, both for a bilateral official visit and to address deliver the keynote address at Shangri-La Dialogue. That really stands out because, in many ways that Shangri-La Dialogue speech has really set the discourse, international as well as regional discourse, on the concept and the content of Indo-Pacific region as we define it. So it has really completely changed the manner in which this is viewed and perceived across the region. He came back again in, I think, November 2018 for the East Asia Summit, where he also became the first head of government to deliver the keynote address at the Singapore FinTech Festival, where he spoke about the digital revolution in India. That was a very important statement too. But then we had the ASEAN-India Commemorative Summit in Delhi in January of 2018. Other things that come to my mind on the bilateral side are clearly the defense exercises we've had both here and in India. But particularly since I was here to say in Singapore in 2017 and 2019, great maritime exercises, ship visits, a number of them. We've had our community also come out on the ships and interact with our naval personnel. Locally, of course, there are so many that we can immediately think of. Praasi, ASEAN India Praasi Bharatiya Divas.
I was just wanting to ask you because that was the first.
Yes, the ASEAN India Praasi Bharatiya Divas is still remembered. We are ourselves surprised by how much we were able to achieve in those 2 days. What a extraordinary breadth of activities we had. We had again a business and innovation summit, the next phase in September 2019, which we had planned well before the election, and we thought once the new government comes into office in Delhi, we would have a big business and innovation summit, again, extremely well attended. Then Inspreneur is a very important platform we've created, India-Singapore Entrepreneurship Bridge. We've had 3 editions of that, which is a platform we've developed to connect the startup ecosystems in both countries, and it's working really well. The unveiling of Gandhi plaque at the site where his ashes were immersed in March of 1948 by Prime Minister Modi in the presence of Emeritus Senior Minister Goh Chok Tong. That was a very moving moment because it just again highlighted a sacred thread that connects India and Singapore. I'd say very recently when we had this Amjad Ali Khan in concert with Singapore Chinese Orchestra and a concert that we called Confluence or Samagam. It's the first time in Singapore that 2 great traditions that have had such a deep influence in shaping Singapore, the Indian and the Chinese, their music that draw from those traditions, 2 classical traditions, were coming together for the first time here in Singapore. So that is something that
I think one very big highlight you're forgetting, you interviewing Sunil Gavas.
I was coming to that. Now I'm going to shift to something, the third part of my of my highlights here, and which is personal.
Yeah.
Now, I'd say this, that Singapore's been a wonderful place, and we've experienced a great deal. Personally, I've learned a lot being here. So I've learned a great deal about the region. I have enjoyed a great deal with the festivals, the visits to various places of worship over here, connecting with the diaspora at the grassroots level. We're talking about cricket, of course, sports is a passion. So I had a great opportunity to, of course, interview Sunil Gavas, our childhood hero. I mean, I remember every statistic of his.
And I haven't seen a better interview than that, let me tell you that.
Much. No, I mean, I think it was this fan moment. And also, of course, the opportunity with Rohit Sharma and MS Dhoni over here. So those were very great opportunities. But I think Singapore also, in terms of cuisine, in terms of the diversity of culture, diversity of faiths and festivals, I mean, these are things. Look, in some ways, you are living in a city which is the only place you might see the entire diversity of India represented here. Where else would you see all the festivals of India from the south, east, west, north being celebrated? I mean, I hadn't seen some of the Indian festivals till I came here.
Correct.
True.
Fire walking, for example,
Correct.
or Thaipusam, for example. But also, you know, some of the Buddhist festivals, the Taoist festivals, of course, the way the streets are lit up for Diwali or for Eid, and the markets that are set up. Why I'm emphasizing this is because that's often the not seen part of Singapore. These are the things that lend the city a soul, and it's important to be able to actually understand and appreciate it and what they've built.
So your efforts at community engagement are very well recognized, and it's incredible the legions of people you've been able to engage. And you yourself was talking about, you know, how meeting with an average member of Indian diaspora, etc. So it's impossible to capture what so many people have to say about you, and there's some great things. But we've captured some clips from some of the people you interacted more than the others. Why don't you have a look at these, and let's see what you have to say.
I'm sure this is the generosity of good friends.
I would say these are all very objective comments. Why don't you have a look at them?
What can I say about His Excellency Mr. Ashraf? He's an unusual diplomat, a diplomat with guts. He's not afraid of the arts, he embraces it. You know, he doesn't just support the arts, he promotes it, he is passionate about it. He can talk as easily about Shaw and Shakespeare as he talks about politics and economics, because he knows that there is no better way to showcase the Indian culture, the Indian spirit, than the performing arts.
He is a master at conceiving large-scale events of unparalleled size and quality and depth, and he has the knack of being able to have them executed with such perfection and a very fine eye for detail. At the events that he organizes, he often is the one who designs the menu to its last detail. He is really an eclectic person, much loved by Singapore, and as he departs to France, I would say au revoir to him, and I think he'll make a huge contribution in France, which is culturally far more vibrant than any other place in the world.
He loves children. He loves to be with students of various ages, be it science exhibitions, be it quizzes, be it student performances, be it annual days. He's always eager to come. He's always eager to talk to children. He's so inquisitive about what goes on in children's mind. And more importantly, he would love to see how children react to his stories, his explanations. So it's been a great journey to have Javed sir really talking to all the kids.
It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure knowing His Excellency Mr. Jawed Ashraf, the Indian High Commissioner to Singapore, for the last 3 years. We have worked together on many occasions, but more than that, it's been amazing learning and so much fun having a conversation with him. It could be politics, it could be the arts, it could be the governance, it could be the streets of Singapore, it could even be photography. And it is amazing the kind of knowledge and depth he has, and he can speak about anything, anywhere, so beautifully. Wishing him the very best for Paris and France. I'm sure he's going to create a much bigger stir.
Javed has been a source of inspiration for the Indian community in Singapore. He's brought together the diaspora here like never before. Thanks to him, the India House and the India High Commission have become cultural keystones in our lives. He's also been a great passionate advocate of activities related to business and technology. While Javed is an amazing human being and open and very accessible, there's one part of Javed that we still haven't quite figured out in all these years, which is where does he get all the energy to do whatever he does? So before you leave, Javed, we'd love to know the secret. So Javed, thank you very much for all that you've done. We will really miss you, but you leave a very strong legacy behind. Good luck in your next assignment.
I'm not sure whether all of that should be taken at face value, but you've chosen some friends I can see over there, people who I work with. But really, I think part of the joy of being here in Singapore, working here, is the pleasure that comes from working with an extraordinarily talented set of people, highly accomplished, great achievers in respective fields. It really amazes me how in a small city you have such a high concentration of some of the best that India has to offer in every field. In every field, there's nothing that you can think of where you won't find the best of the best over here.
But you're being modest. You have gone beyond anybody's expectations of how a mission can do what it actually did in the last 3 years.
So I think that's something which is one thing we always must try to do, is to keep pushing the boundaries. And it's really about, for me it's always been about sort of visualizing and conceptualizing things on that scale, but also with that belief that whatever we do, we must really do it as the best in the world, both in terms of scale and quality. To do it at that level, but with that intrinsic Indian soul, has been our guiding spirit over here. we have a ministry and a government that is very supportive of it. That it's at least one department of government of India where there are no naysayers in that sense. So you can keep pushing the boundaries, you can do things, and there'll always be support for it. But I think at the heart of it is also the recognition that as a mission, one is that we bear a huge responsibility, not just of representing India, of carrying the flag of the country and working towards the improvement in our bilateral relations, but also to really be there for every Indian.
But so there's been a sea change in the way the missions have been engaging with their citizens, be it citizens who are in distress or building brand India. What do you attribute this to?
I mean, it's clearly, very clearly, this is the emphasis that Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has placed on a great deal of emphasis on this right from the beginning of his term as Prime Minister from May 2014. I'd also say that the late Mrs. Sushma Swaraj was a really people's foreign minister. If a citizen of India is in distress, needs help, or is caught in a problem, we should be there to help. And fortunately, with modern communications technology, it has become easy to do that. I remember Prime Minister telling us right in the beginning after he assumed office, and so did Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, that the embassies should not be there for the elite. And the doors of the embassy must open for every citizen who's either traveling out of India or is living abroad, or even a person of Indian origin, or anyone for that matter, citizens and students from other countries as well. So service to the people has been at the core of this government's effort to engage with the world and with the diaspora outside. I'd say this, that Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is now our foreign minister, who was then foreign secretary, places equal emphasis on this. And this has, in terms of our performance indicators, this is really right at the top, not just in developing a big political and economic relationship, but really serving the people.
So in the last 3 years, you interacted a lot with Singapore ministers who are some of the most highly educated and some of the brightest minds in the world. What impressions do you carry back about your engagement with Singapore ministers as you leave Singapore?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, Singapore ministers, first, I mean, let me say my personal experiences, they are extremely open, friendly and accessible. I might say I have a bit of an advantage over others because quite often I meet them on weekends at various community-related events or various festivals or grassroots events to which I am also invited, partly because we have such a huge diaspora. So it's helped me build a very strong relationship with many of them. So I'd say they are extremely open, friendly, and accessible. They are not very hierarchical, as though they are ministers, and they don't wear their ministership on their sleeves. The next thing I'd say is that they are extremely competent and very knowledgeable in their fields. You are sometimes amazed at how much they know, both in terms of details, but also the vision that they have in their respective areas. Another thing I'd say is that they are very much focused on the future. It's not something that you very often see in ministers. I think as much as they spend time thinking about the present, they spend as much time thinking about what the future will be for Singapore and how do they prepare the country to face that future. I think in some senses this is really the reason for Singapore sustaining its success in a changing world. But the other side, which probably is not very well known outside, is how much time they spend in community outreach, in constituency work. I don't think they take Saturdays and Sundays off. And the priority they attach to sustaining and deepening the harmonious social fabric of Singapore. It's multiculturalism, it's multi-religious society. I see ministers attending festivals of diverse faiths. I see them going to different places of worship without any hesitation.
So let me club two questions now. Your next posting is in France, so do tell us, when do you take charge in Paris? And before coming to Singapore, you were in Nepal,
Yes.
which led to a book.
Yes.
Now, Singapore stint is going to lead to what? Can we expect another book or something else that you have in mind?
I will hopefully be moving to Paris very soon. Very soon, I can't
Why do you
yet.
say hopefully, sir?
Well, because now the orders of transfer is here. I mean, I must say that it's never easy to leave Singapore. It will not be easy to leave Singapore. I think it's a city that we have enjoyed very much. It's been very enriching for us. So I know a lot of people my predecessors who've come and served here and continue to have a very strong relationship with Singapore and with people in Singapore. So I can tell you that it's not going to be, it's never easy to say goodbye to Singapore, and I hope that my relationship with Singapore will continue to be strong, and I certainly hope to maintain it. But as far as Singapore is concerned, I'm afraid I haven't had as much time to go around and shoot pictures. But let's see. But if I were to do it, it would be on what I've already spoken about, which is it would be something like Singapore, the other side of faiths, festivals and festivities.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, sounds perfect.
Which is to speak about, the soul of Singapore. So I've thought about it, but, I mean, I've always regretted that I haven't done as much as I would have liked to, but maybe I'll go through it all and see if there is
We are really looking forward to
Yes,
that one
something
now.
in it. Yes.
So, His Excellency, we've interviewed Shah Rukh Khan, and we have interviewed you so many times. I just find one thing which is similar between you and him, besides, of course, the intelligence. And Gustaki Maaf, it's both of you love to give long answers. So I've got this special segment for you, which is rapid fire.
Okay.
And considering your line of work and speed at which you think, there are only two rules for you.
Yeah.
Number one is no diplomacy.
Okay.
And number two is you get only 2 seconds to think of an answer.
Oh no.
Okay.
On a Saturday afternoon, I mean, you're asking the mind to work faster. Yes.
Well, so I'm going to start. Greatest Indian cricketer, Sunil Gavaskar, Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli.
At this point in time, Sachin Tendulkar.
Who do you love more, Stephen's alumni or I am alumni?
It's a difficult question to answer. I'll pass that. Yes.
What's your favorite place to eat in Singapore?
Oh God, that's home. Yes.
One Singaporean delicacy you will miss.
Laksa.
Which place do you like more, Nepal or Singapore?
Again, for different reasons, both. I mean, yes. I mean, again, you're asking very uncomfortable questions. Yes.
One word which describes PM Lee.
Wise.
One word which describes Prime Minister Modi.
Charismatic. And yes.
So one thing you wished you did better or differently in your stint in Singapore?
Well, I can think of many things that would be different, but hard to answer that question in one word.
Okay.
Engage more, yes.
Okay. 3 words in which you would describe Indian diaspora in Singapore.
Easy, talented, accomplished, connected.
Sir, I'd say that you've done very well
Absolutely,
in
I
your
agree.
rapid fire, and we are absolutely thrilled to present something very interesting for doing so well in your rapid fire. And I'm really proud that it's a painting which has been made by one of our colleagues, Lakshmi Iyer.
Oh, how nice.
And
Thank you.
we'd like to give it to you. Lakshmi, can we get the painting? This is from Connected to India to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much for your time once again. And on behalf of the Connected to India team, I would like to wish you all the best for your tenure and a great career. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's always been a pleasure working with Connected to India, but since you are not bound to Singapore and you're not country specific and you represent the entire diaspora globally,